Hey, it's AG and IG here again. CB isn't here right now because he's not feeling that good, which is okay with
It's
him
gonna happen.
because he's not a fan of Buggy right now. So
Uh-huh.
he's so it's so he kind of just took the day off, and
Yeah.
we're gonna just go on
He'll
without him for
probably
now.
be back next week.
Next week, maybe a few weeks down the road when he feels good again.
Yeah. So, um, so this is a bit later than how we'll usually do it. I think the time slot we did it last time was pretty good at like 1 o'clock. Or do you want to keep doing it at this time?
No, it's fine the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we usually record on Saturdays, so
Yeah.
this is this is fairly okay for us. Where when we're midday to late night on Saturday, so that's probably when we're going to be recording each time,
Yeah.
and then probably get it out on Sunday.
Uh-huh. We've already kind of got some critiques back. I'm trying to speak a little louder because especially when I watched it last time, I was super much mouth. So sorry if you couldn't hear me at some points of it. But
That's my turn.
oh,
So either way, one of the things that we were asked to clarify was how exactly our rating system works.
hmm yeah, because I agree. We really overstressed what a silver was because there was a bunch of silvers in the last episode. But
But to reiterate, Silver is a regular episode. It's the
like
general run of the mill. That was an okay episode.
it's like the pacing's good, the writing was, it wasn't anything to write home about, but it was passable to like sit down on and just watch some anime. You know, there wasn't anything bad about it, which automatically clarifies it for a silver. If you liked the episode, it was probably a silver. Um,
Yeah.
Bronze would be a subpar episode. Like the pacing was off. Like say if it was a comedy series and this episode wasn't funny, it would automatically be a bronze because it didn't make you laugh.
Conversely, a gold episode is, that was pretty good. It's the type of episodes that you would essentially show to a
Mm-hmm.
person if they're like, it's like, oh, what's a general episode? And you want to show them not an average episode, but one that is good.
Yeah.
So it's like, so the things that were talked about in this episode were good. Or so by extension, now we have to talk about what stone and platinum means.
Yeah.
Because I think some people are a little confused when we talk about a stone episode, where
A stone episode sinks like it sinks in the water basically. It won't float and it won't save your life. So this would be that
they're
the episode
also
was repugnant to you. Like one of my stones, if we're gonna use an anime for an example, I really like Yu-Gi-Oh! I've collected some Takobans of Yu-Gi-Oh! I was really into it as a kid, and then I got to the Atlantis arc. If you've ever seen the Atlantis arc, you kind of know why I wouldn't like it. It kind of takes the character and it like puts an axe to every single one of the characters I loved. And it was so bad I couldn't enjoy GX, which was actually a pretty good series. I thought it was relatively funny. The characters were also funny and likable,
but
but
she just kind of got scarred from that aspect of the series that
and
she just
shonen
doesn't like
anime
the format.
entirely. So that's what a stone. That's what my stone would be. That entire Atlantis arc is a stone. It not only drags down the entire series, but it also drags down the entire genre and even the entire medium it's in. I didn't watch anime after that for 5 years. That's
Um,
how much I didn't like Atlantis.
Conversely, you then have platinum. Like I said in the first episode, we are able to give 3 stones and 3 platinums in the entire course of the series
If we give more
to
than 3 stones,
to
we got a
certain
problem.
episodes, not the whole cluster of episodes, but just on a certain episode. What I was doing, and she kind of wasn't, but she shifted over to my method of rating the episodes was originally it was going to be each episode was going to be talked about as its own medal, and I was giving it those 5 episodes overall.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we talk about a platinum episode and a stone episode, we're talking about these individual episodes. So the section of 5 won't be platinum and won't be stone. It's one specific episode. In a gold run of 5 episodes is platinum, and an episode in a run of bronze episodes was stone. And so that's essentially how we would go about
Like, if there's any outliers in, like, a set of episodes, I imagine we talk about it separately
yeah.
to the whole. Like, for instance, you have watched Made in the Abyss, and you've read it.
I would
have
say,
not
though,
finished
that
it, and we're not going to spoil it, but we both really like Made in the Abyss.
the series is really good, and there is distinctly a platinum quality to the entire series. I would say that One Piece is gold. It is a very gold
as of
series,
right
but
now.
because of the number of episodes and how much filler they had to put into the episodes, it drags down the series. I'm going to just say right now, and I'm going to reiterate to Stevie when he comes back, we are not allowed to put platinum or stone on any filler episodes.
Yeah,
because that would feel a little cheap. Of like, man, I hate the filler. And I was like, it's like if we were doing Naruto, and every single week, someone was saying, "This is these 5 episodes are also stone." To spare you, if we ever do Naruto, we are going to be doing the filler, but
mostly
we would not be doing
the...
we would not be doing ratings on the filler because they do not.
Which is unfortunate because there's a really good filler arc.
There are really good filler episodes, but at most, the best filler episodes are like very low end gold. Like they're just barely gold episodes because of the context that they're in.
Yeah. They kind
especially
of, like,
with Naruto,
they don't
where it's
fit
like
in well with
every single like
plot.
large section of episodes has to end up with Naruto in the hospital, just in case it's like, okay, are we going on? We're not yet? Okay. We might as well just continue a little bit. So a lot of that filler stuff ends up with him being in the hospital, just in case they needed
say
to.
It was earlier in the series, and they, like, have a background character who's not currently in the run of episodes right now, in the background, and it kind of, like...
The most famous example is after they fought Pain in Naruto, they talked about a mission that they went on with Sasuke back before the Chunin exam, and so it's like...
It's super awkward, because, like, everybody's not in their outfits you've grown used to, or, like, you've been forced to grow used to for some of them. I liked some of the costumes, but I didn't like all of them. Shippuden was why I stopped watching Naruto.
Yeah. Although the one thing I would say is when talking about One Piece, though, is that a lot of the episodes are going to be silver to gold. And we're going to get into why in this episode, but there's a distinct lull in certain arcs in which you just go, okay, continue. I don't want to see any of this. I know that you're giving us important backstory on some characters, or you're giving us context for a group of enemies that are going to show up later, but it's just not interesting. But we're giving context for the characters for later.
Yeah.
Especially with these 5 episodes, which
they're all...
I'm going to say now, they're not the best.
Yeah. In fact...
But there are some good episodes in the run of these 5 episodes.
There's some good parts in some of them, and there's one actually good episode, but it's once again good in context. So I guess we're gonna... Oh, before we begin, I can add another anime I actually finished. I have watched Fist of the North Star.
I am surprised that you actually watched Fist of the North Star.
I watched it with Dad.
Fist of the North Star.
I was kind of chuckling and, like, laughing throughout the whole thing. I thought it was hilarious.
Cheesy. It's really cheesy at times.
I think that cheese in camp is one of the greatest things ever, until it got to the end. And that's why Fist of the North Star is bronze.
Yeah.
Which will piss off many, many people, but it's not like... It wasn't made for me.
If we were...
Fist of the North Star was...
JoJo's Bizarre Adventure isn't at 100 episodes yet, just so you know. But if we were to do that, probably at the end of the fifth series, in which it will now have 100 episodes.
It'll reach syndication.
Yeah. there are distinct gold and platinum episodes in that whole run
Oh,
of the
yeah.
series.
In fact, I've seen my
But
platinum for
first,
JoJo's.
but the first like 9 episodes, there are some stones in there, and so you have to basically
It's why
have
I
to
haven't
go through
finished.
them, and you're like, okay, get through them. We're trying to get through this. But think about this: if we were to do JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, by the end of the second podcast we would do, we would be talking about Joseph, and Joseph is the best character of the series. So
I'll fight you on that one. And
But-
this is why it's important to have more than one person do this podcast. Because Stardust Crusaders, that's the third one, right?
Yeah.
Is my favorite one because of the plane episode.
really, the plane?
Yeah, I love that episode.
Tara Gray's such a bad villain, though.
So?
The best villain is
I will
Pet
agree,
Shop.
he's not the best.
Icebird is great. The Icebird is great.
It's because he's a bird, isn't he?
He's also got the little falcon hat on. No, he doesn't act cute. He is actually evil. He is an evil bird that will kill you with his ice stand.
He's gonna claw your eyes out.
Yeah.
And use them to line his nest.
Almost successfully. But the interesting thing about that I would like to say about One Piece is that the series is very dynamic. As the series went on, Oda said, okay, I will never do this sort of thing ever again. One, because it would just bore the people reading or watching. So I just won't do this again. Because if I just keep repeating the same arc over and over again, people are going to get bored. Which is why Bleach failed. But I don't
that's
even...
for another discussion entirely.
Naruto and Bleach are over 100, but we're not adding them to the list at all.
I don't think I could last through Bleach.
Bleach didn't finish, and Naruto has too much filler to do, because if you were to cut out the filler,
it's like
you would
60% filler.
It's roughly around either 50 to 60% filler.
Yeah. And One Piece has filler, because here's the thing, I usually don't like filler, unless it's really good filler.
Think
which
about
is
this.
hard to find.
The 4Kids version of One Piece ended on a filler arc. They didn't even get to Skype. They didn't get to Water 7 and in his lobby because it would have been too awkward to try to
also
explain
couldn't
some
do
things
it.
like that.
Because it was 4Kids. And 4Kids was the kind of company that had to censor everything for various reasons. They got One Piece in a bundle of a bunch of other anime, and I think that people forget that. They got it at the same time as Ultimate Muscle and Beyblade and Yu-Gi-Oh!
They were primarily going for
didn't
Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon, and they got all of the series that were running at that time. So they got Beyblade, they got
Ultimate Muscle,
Ultimate
they got
Muscle,
Kirby.
They got Kirby, and they got...
And Kirby Superstar was actually pretty good.
What is the actual name of the show, Stacy?
What?
The name of the show is Kirby Right Back at Ya.
My mind is slipping.
Kirby is the star of the show. He's the name that everyone should know. He's a bundle of pink.
Once again, 4Kids was really into their raps.
No, it wasn't rap. It was like slam poetry almost. It was bad.
It's the same thing. In
Although the very Brooklyn, I gotta go get that Kirby.
Thanks, Joey.
No, it wasn't Joey. It was the voice of Seto Kaiba trying to do a British voice, which is hilarious because they actually have a British guy doing it.
Mm-hmm. It's a British guy trying to do a British impersonation of what he should sound.
It's a British guy trying to do a Brooklyn accent.
Oh.
Either way, let's actually just go into the episodes now. Episode 6.
Yeah.
What did you think about this episode?
This episode, I think along with the first episode really sets viewers up for what they're actually gonna see during the series. One Piece, as we said, is heavily character-driven. Heavily character-driven. Like, it wasn't just hyperbole that, oh, there's a lot of colorful characters, and we'll get to know some of them. No, we get to know all of them. And all of their crushing backstories. All of their disappointments. All of their highs and lows. Every character... There's like over how many named characters? I forget.
There's a lot. And just in this one episode, you meet a dog who his owner died. You meet the mayor of the town. You meet the lion tamer from Buggy's crew. And I can't remember if they actually said the shop owner's name. Wasn't it actually the name of the shop?
Yeah, it was, but I don't have the name of it.
Either way,
because, some characters we'll see again, and it will, like, come out of the blue and say, what are you doing here? And it's like, we didn't expect to see you here, and they turn up, and other characters you never see again for the rest of the series. I don't think, we might have seen them in, like, a cover arc, but I don't think we're ever gonna dwell on these characters. But the dog gets a sad, depressing backstory.
Yeah, so, to think about it is, not including... Okay, I was trying to think of what I was saying, but I couldn't actually bring it up. But the whole idea that it's like, oh, we're getting the backstory of this dog and why it doesn't want to move from its owner's pet shop.
Okay.
Like
context. How we meet this dog. So, after Zoro realizes he can't kill Buggy with his swords, which basically kills all of Zoro's plans right in the water, because typically if he can't cut things, or if he can't cut his own, or if he can't attempt to cut his own limbs off, he's got nothing. But so Zoro basically flips the cannon around and distracts them with this big buggy ball. It's like, what is it, like this big, I think? I forget. And so he launches it at Buggy and his pirate crew, giving them time to get away. Zoro basically picks up the cage Luffy's in on his back, and they jump the roof, and they try and run, but they don't. And
they meet up with the dog. The mayor tells about their backstory. They meet the beast tamer.
As Luffy stays trapped in the cage, despite being made out of rubber.
To figure out, like, if he got out in this episode or the next one.
Oh, he was tossed, and the cage broke in this episode.
Okay. Either way, the episode is basically just talking about the dog's backstory and why you should feel bad about him. And it's like, okay, the mayor's gonna rush off and he's gonna try to attack the buggy pirates. Okay. And then it's like, oh wait, that's the end of the episode? Oh. Okay, episode 7. And it
ends with, like, a really cool shot, like, along with the end of the first episode. You, like, see the fury in Luffy's face as he's, like, you can see him, like, plodding, like, to run this guy through the ground with his bare fists.
And then you just get to episode 7, where right after that, you have Luffy knocking the mayor out so he doesn't get involved.
Because he absolutely would get himself killed. Because I don't think we mentioned it a lot. Buggy also has a devil fruit. And devil fruits are kind of weird.
Alright, we completely forgot about
because the first time we tried to do the last episode, we went on and on for like a half an hour spiel about the devil fruits and what they do.
We'll reach that topic when we get through Logtown, actually.
Yeah.
Because once we hit Logtown, now we're actually talking about devil fruits.
Yeah, but basically, Buggy has a devil fruit which allows him to section himself off into pieces. He's the exact opposite of Luffy's fruit. Luffy cannot be hurt with bludgeoned weapons. A lot like how we saw Alvida take her spiked club and try and hit Luffy in the head. It did nothing. Like, he bounced it right back off. But so when Zoro tried to cut Buggy sectioned himself off into pieces and stabbed Zoro, like...
It's also believed that when he actually does get cut, that's now a new section that appears.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
and we'll get to see how far he can like subdivide himself.
but that's for later. But okay,
I
so
like your
Zoro is basically just like, oh, I may be hurt, but I'm not out yet. So
Zoro's a human pincushion, and then
yeah.
and that's as you wrote. It's like he's gonna get like cut up and beat down, and it's gonna be really hard to watch sometimes. And other times it will be his own fault, and you'll be like, Zoro, I know you want to be the toughest guy in the sea, because everyone has a dream in this world, and Luffy loves to help people with their dreams in his own little crazy way. Zoro wants to be the greatest swordsman in the world, just like how Luffy wants to be king of the pirates. And so Zoro picks a fight with everybody he sees. So like if he smells a fight coming, he'll grab his swords and he'll try and get into a fight. Whether or not he can probably take them is a different story. Usually he can. Usually he can take the fight. But yeah. So even in like the East Blue arc, we're gonna see Zoro trying to take on some big fish and him getting like splayed open from it.
The major problem that I'll bring up later. So you basically have Zoro going, okay, I took out the Beast Tamer had been taken out by this time, and then the Acrobat shows up, and the Acrobat's got probably one of the dumbest designs of any of the starting main characters in the East Blue. There is dumber characters that show up later, and we will bring him up when we eventually get there in about 2 years.
So, Kabaji.
Kabaji is the Acrobat, and Moji is the name of the
yeah. So, Kabaji somehow looks like the perfect cross between a goth and a valley girl. It's absurd.
Yeah.
Like, because he has the looks of a valley girl, but he flips his hair at one scene, and like he like looks down at his nose at Zoro. It's like, I can fight you with spinning tops aboard my unicycle of death. And I'm like, how is this not the weirdest thing that we're gonna see even in the East Blue? Like, it's absurd how not weird this is in retrospective.
Oh, I also forgot to bring something up. This is also the first time that Nami sees Luffy's power, and she gives like this weird look on her face where she's like, "Man, that's disgusting," and it's like, "Are you okay? It looks like you're about to throw up from the concept of rubber itself."
Which, if he was made of gold, like there would be no amount that Nami would not be following this guy to the ends of the earth.
Speaking of gold, she does actually find she literally finds Buggy's treasure hoard, and
it's like the size of a basement, and this girl hauls off with like what, like 50% of it.
Yeah, and the only reason why she got through is because, you know, all of Buggy's men are incompetent, including him.
Like, he uses his own men as human meat shields against, who was it, Zoro? Or was it Luffy?
He pulls a guy in front of him and does that.
Probably Zoro killed that guy, like, outright. But yeah. That's kind of a theme with Buggy, that he's the most competent person on his crew.
Which isn't saying much.
Yeah, it's not saying much, but it's also saying a lot, because he is Buggy the Immortal.
Although we do find out that, that Buggy can't feel pain between all of his body, it's separated out. Mm-hmm. Which makes me interested in figuring out if, a certain character in the future, if
what time frame is it? That's like
we meet him recent? First at Sabaody.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. If he were to cut Buggy up, would Buggy be able to put himself back together?
Well, we saw at Marineford how finely diced that this man can go to.
Yeah. But the episode ends with Buggy trying to get one one hit on Luffy, and
grabs his hat instead, which is
yeah,
the no-no that you do not touch Straw Hat Luffy's straw hat.
episode 8, we get the backstory of Buggy.
And incidentally, Shanks has the straw hat that he gives to Luffy in episode 5, which kind of gives a tiny bit more context that Shanks has had the straw hat for a while. If it is the same straw hat, because we can't tell in this episode.
So basically in this episode we see Gold Roger's crew with Shanks and Buggy as cabin boys on his ship. And they happen to come across a devil fruit. And Buggy
It's
goes,
a pineapple.
It looks like a pineapple.
With leaves and all. Like,
and so
I will
goes,
preference.
I will eat this devil fruit, and I will
gain the power
and I will
of this
see what power I get. And he eats it. And they go, oh, I guess it wasn't a real devil fruit. No. And then they start walking off, and it turns out that Buggy was going to run off the ship and
with
just sell it off
fruit.
Because this would
he
basically
heard it was worth 10,000 berry.
Which you'll notice
it.
that the ones that directly change your body instead of letting you like generate something or control an aspect of something is a lot more expensive than any of the other ones, and I think I have a reason for it. A reason that just came up in the manga by the time that we started this.
Which is another thing, like, why didn't we realize that this was something important? And we'll get to it. Because, as we've said, Luffy and Buggy's fruits are very similar to each other. They're just opposites.
They're just polar opposites of each other.
And we'll also see another polar opposite that Luffy has.
And now we
get to it.
And we find out why Buggy hates Shanks so much, as Shanks basically catches him, and
Shanks knew what was going up the first time. It's like he probably spotted him off in the distance and said.
And so Buggy hides the fruit in his mouth, who then Shanks comes up and slaps his back, forcing him to swallow it whole.
No, he doesn't. He walks away, and like Buggy is kind of like. You can just see the leaves sticking out of the pineapple out of his mouth, and he like calms down. And he like lets out this sigh like through having a pineapple in his mouth, spikes and all. And Shanks comes back in suddenly and says, "Oh hey Buggy, by the way," and Buggy is so startled he swallows the pineapple whole. Buggy.
And now we know how Buggy got his powers.
Stupidity. Which isn't the last thing he'll receive through sheer dumb luck.
Ow.
But so yeah.
So the second we get back from that, Luffy then
and then Luffy kind of like he doesn't comment on it, but like this is the time in which we realize Shanks and Buggy used to be crewmates on some other ship.
I thought it was just expressly said that it was Gold Rogers.
No, it wasn't.
Are you sure?
Not at the time, no. Spoiling it for everybody.
No, I'm pretty sure that they mention it.
No, not at the time. Like, we didn't know that until much later. It was just a random ship.
I've got to go back in those episodes now, try to figure out if I was right or not.
91.6% certain that it's not Rod. That it's not Rogers.
Okay. We'll know by the next episode.
Yeah.
Buggy has to separate to avoid an attack. And then Nami captures up some of his parts and and now he's this really small.
Yeah,
he's
Luffy,
only got hands.
Team Rocket blasts them off again into the distant skyline.
Yeah, causing Buggy's crew members to jump on their ship and try to follow him, trying to figure out where he went. But who knows if they'll find him again?
Yeah, I'm sure that. As we said, we're never gonna see Buggy again. Never, ever gonna see Buggy again. He's never gonna do anything important.
He's not gonna get
a gag character. Definitely not going to receive a mini filler arc. Absolutely not. He's not going to be of any importance. He's not going to trouble Luffy ever again. It's all good.
So,
all good.
but
On to the next one.
no. We still have Luffy poorly explains the situation.
I think Luffy just
They
wanted
run
to
off
get
with
off
the
island
treasure that
'cause
they
he-
had.
Well,
the dog
he
makes the
runs
most
off with-
unrealistic bark noise of all
Of
time.
course
It literally sounds like there's a girl going, "Arr,
probably
arr."
my age, the poor thing, that nowadays that we can get more realistic barking sounds in anime, but back then you just had, like, the people in the studio you had especially in, like, smaller budget ones.
And so the three characters go off. They're now
Luffy,
now starting the crew. They're the original three characters. And
actually, this is another sign of Luffy being a good person. He willingly leaves half of Buggy's treasure hoard in a bag on the island. And, like, Nami gets all pissed at him for it. It's like, well, why did you take the gold? And he was like, they would need it to rebuild their town, duh. And I'm like, this kid's got a good heart in there somewhere. Like, past all the ribs and the leg meat, he's got a good heart in there somewhere. Hey, you were saying.
And then at the end of the episode, much like how we saw Zoro at the end of the first episode, we get a character reveal, and it's episode 9. We get introduced to Usopp, the chronic liar, who he runs around and he likes annoying people by pretending that pirates are there.
Mm-hmm. Which, poor kid, probably is an emotional outcry for attention. It's what this usually is. Like, no. And we do get a bit of his backstory, because Luffy has met, and we have met too, Usopp's father.
Who, it is this episode.
Uh-huh.
So we'll talk about when we get to it. So Usopp keeps going around. He's trying to make everyone laugh with his lies.
I mean, they're not actually funny. I don't think he ever realized until too late that they weren't actually funny.
But then Luffy actually shows up.
And they're in a stolen Buggy Pirates ship.
Yeah.
So they're flying the Jolly Roger of Buggy the Clown. And
so,
Usopp has heard of Buggy, apparently.
Well, so Buggy's a menace in the East Blue, and so they have to know about these sort of things.
But somehow he does and gets, like, dragged in.
Usopp puts up a valiant attempt to make it seem like that the island's already inhabited. But it doesn't really work, and Luffy's apparently too intimidating for Usopp to actually shoot him.
Yeah, cause Zoro and Luffy are prepared for a beatdown. They're prepared for a real fight, and they're all jonesing, and they're all super excited. And then Usopp kind of like, it was a lie. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. And you kind of see like Luffy is a bit like, darn it, I was ready for a fight. Shame.
You then have Luffy going, "Oh, I already know who you are. You're Yasopp's son." And he goes, "Oh, you actually know my dad?" I was like, "Yeah, I've met him before." And so it's this cool little moment of like
this montage of like Luffy.
It really isn't a montage, it's just like a minor flashback of like, hey, look, this is Yasopp, one of Shanks' best snipers, and he met him when Shanks would visit the island, and so
which everyone in Shanks' crew has like pistols and sidearms. So saying he is like the top sniper is actually something in the crew. Because everyone's got some kind of a gun of some kind.
But essentially after this flashback we see Usopp run to the sick girl that he keeps trying to entertain, who is the rich girl of the island. Which, in Japanese culture, this does actually happen a lot, where it's like, if it's a coastal city, usually what will happen is that the front of the beginning coastline of the town is like a fishing district.
Because
a little bit inland is the shops, and then on top of the hill that's next to it is usually
in like the center of the island.
Usually the richest person there, who basically manages either the fishing or the shopping area.
And normally this happens organically over a course of like hundreds of years.
Yeah.
It's just the person who managed to make the most money, like fishing originally or doing a lot of merchant work, more likely.
But you got to remember, because this is a Japanese person trying to give an impersonation of um, German, English, and French pirates. Like the entire city, the entire town has like an English flair to it, and then
there's like oddly,
and then like a French mansion on top of the hill, even down to like how.
But it gives its own quirk to it, as we'll realize, because in this work you can't really see it, but there are towns in which no expense is spared on the detail of some of these towns. Like there's actually one arc where it doesn't expressly say it, but there's a group of people living in the massive fruit of the island. Like they've set up houses in there, and they don't talk about it. They don't even like dwell on it. It's something you see in the background, and you're like.
In the actual episodes, they do talk about it a little bit because they got to bring it up. But the entire setup for it is a 2-page spread in the manga. I was like, okay, the animals live in the giant fruits, and they use that for both food and shelter. That's pretty cool.
Because they're pineapples, so they eat the fruit of the outside, and they just make homes.
And then you basically have Luffy and his crew follow him. They meet the girl, and then her butler shows up, his name is Calidor. Which isn't his real name, but we'll get to that in the next episode. And the entire...
He has a stupid jacket.
Yeah, he's got like little poop emojis on his jacket.
Yeah, it's like...
It's really dumb.
Yeah, which... He actually seems really heartfelt in this episode, that he's just looking out for Kaya, is the girl's name, that Usopp really super has a crush on. And it seemed, and that we get like a mini flashback of how he kind of like dragged himself in front of the mansion, like in a terrible state, and he began working as the house's butler for some like 20 years, like 15 years, like something around there. And he's just been working for this family, and he really cares about the last remaining member of this family. Then we get to the next episode.
Turns out that he's evil.
Oh, tremendously evil. Like him and his friend, which I have named Django Unchained because his name is Django.
We're gonna just kind of skip to it. Luffy and Usopp basically overhear Django, who is this hypnotist, meet up on the island, going, "Hey, you know about the plan to kill the girl and
Rich
take
girl
all of her money?"
assassination plot is literally what they name it.
Yeah, the rich girl assassination
I can't make
plan.
this stuff up.
And so it's like, oh no, we gotta stop him. But to go back earlier into the episode, there's a really good moment between Luffy and Usopp where they're talking about distinctly like
Luffy is buying into some of Usopp's stories because he's all
because he likes listening to him because he knows he's lying, but he wants to listen to him. Kuro and maybe even Usopp is kind of bad at telling the difference between straight up lying and telling a good story, because you sometimes it does feel like that Usopp is more of a storyteller and he wants to tell a good story than he is a liar, because there's a flashback that kind of shows like when he first met Kaya, and what he tells is, yeah, I'm a pirate captain, I could tell you as many stories as you need, and he honestly just wants to make her feel better. He's not lying to her, he just wants to make her feel better.
Because this girl, recently got, her family recently died.
And now she's, really sick.
And she's super depressed, as anyone would be if your parents had died. But, and so Usopp just wanted to see her smile again. You know, and Usopp, his heart is in the right place. Unfortunately, sometimes he goes about things the wrong way. And sometimes to more disastrous effect than others.
I'm trying not to bring up the animation errors that I've been writing in my notes. Because I always make mention of them, but since we are going to be moving over to the more touched up episodes that are on Crunchyroll, because I finally actually got an account on there,
Yeah, it's gonna be easier. Like, we don't have to go on to Hulu to watch them anymore.
The Hulu ones have the original aired versions of them, not the dubbed, but the subbed versions of them. And these ones are the more updated version with like some of the animation errors removed and all that kind of stuff. Slightly better animation touch-ups as well. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, because, like, here's the thing. I think some of the scenes could benefit from some of the animation touches to it. We'll see as we go along.
But yeah, it's like there's this one scene where they're at the diner and they're talking, and someone's drinking, and in 2 frames the glass is now down on the ground.
It's like a Rue. It's like from Ruby when Ruby just like inhales each of the cookies, and then it's like the Cookie Monster like thing, where like she picks it up, brings it to her mouth, it disappears, and she's already grabbing the next one.
It's not that good of animation in season 1.
The
animation got a lot better in like season 3 and on.
Oh yeah, it like they stepped up because they had the budget to step up all of a sudden. They could afford to.
Also, it is kind of sad that they
way.
didn't get a bigger animation budget until the original creator died. It's actually kind of sad.
Who? Oh, Ruby. I thought that. Oda's not dead.
No.
I had a full heart attack. It's like, who's going to end One Piece then? Because it would be impossible for anyone else to end One Piece.
And that's where we'll end off our discussion on the episodes. First off, all the episodes together, all 5 episodes, were bronze. But I will say that the first episode that we get to see Usopp and him telling Kaya about like how he's a pirate captain and like telling her stories, that little flashback make those 2 episodes really high sulfur. The first one even gold.
Because it feels heartfelt.
And you kind of have to sit there and you're like, this kid just wants to be his dad.
You know, he wants... this kid is probably starved for attention. Like, even before we get to the, flashback... Have we gotten to the actual Usopp flashback? We haven't, right?
No.
Okay, so we haven't. So, we already know that this kid is starved for attention. He just wants to feel important in town. He thinks the world of his dad. Like, obviously, he doesn't think that his father leaving him to go off and join a pirate crew was anything bad.
You need to look up which came first. This is kind of a chicken or the egg moment, but Usopp's backstory feels very much like Gon from Hunter x Hunter, in which he's this kid on an island who wants to just meet his dad, who went out to be something great, and he wants to be like his dad. Are you sure, though?
I could be wrong.
Those 2 characters
I've only read the first chapter of
Hunter
x Hunter.
It's mostly because those 2 characters feel very cliche on each other, and so maybe it's just like a thing that happens.
Thing that happens in stories like shorthand.
Yeah.
It's like, why do all of
kid with important dad wants to be...
It's like,
he
why
wants to
do
become
all of
something
the
more.
Disney princess characters have their parents who die? It's like that kind of thing.
But yeah, we're gonna have to give these 5 episodes bronze, not because they're bad, but because they're just boring.
Yeah, especially after the last.
We skipped a lot of the episodes
because they're inconsequential.
You'll notice that like the episode that we probably went into a lot more than anything else were the last 2. We basically skipped over most of Buggy's fights.
Which is something that's going to happen in the future, too.
But it's also because
Buggy is
it does kind of feel like that the fight with Zoro versus the Marines is basically a demo of this is basically what fights with Marines are going to be like. They're going to be more standard. They're going to have actual firearms.
Fast-paced and motion.
And the person who's in charge will usually have the attribute about them that will be intimidating.
And will probably fight Luffy.
Then you have pirate groups in which you will have progressively harder and harder guys to fight until Luffy has to take on the big bad by himself, and usually the fights are going to have an air of figure out their weakness, exploit it, take them out. And having those 2 when you look at them, mini arcs like in place of like, okay, this is how the series is gonna go, and then we sort of have a heartfelt Usopp episode, which is gonna lead into.
And we're gonna talk about what we think about Usopp in particular when he officially joins the crew. Because if you watch the opening, you already know that Usopp's gonna join the crew.
And you also know best character is also in the opening as well. So.
Sanji.
Yeah.
Sanji.
But it's mostly because, like, when you look overall at the series, these just aren't good episodes. They're not bad, they're just boring.
They're subpar. Compared to some of, especially... Okay, so let's compare even one of the episodes here, except for maybe the Usopp moment with Kaya, to, say, Shanks' backstory, where he saves Luffy and gives up his arm. Like, if we are just gonna compare those two dynastically opposed episodes.
Is it bad that I felt really bad about Shanks' arm more than I felt bad about the pet shop owner that we knew nothing about prior to this? And then it's like, I feel bad about the dog. The pet shop's burning down, and oh no.
It's because we feel more for Shanks because Luffy has an invested interest in him.
Yeah,
We're not going to see the dog again, I don't think. We might see him in, like, a glimpse of, oh, it's that Straw Hat Kid Luffy who, like, tore through our island. And,
look
like,
how
the dog
big
and
his
the
bounty
mare
has grown. Oh no.
Yeah. So yeah. But, you know, I agree. These were bronze. I would say because, this, every time I have tried to watch the One Piece anime, this is where I stop.
Yeah.
I don't even make it through episode 10.
I will say that the next group of 5 episodes
feel.
is going to be interesting, because this is going to be the first time that we're going to be in the middle of an arc throughout the entire 5 episodes. Because we're essentially going to have the entire plan of how we're going to take on this pirate crew. And, like,
and Luffy's
most of the action, but we're not going to see the end of it until the next one after that.
Yeah, and Luffy's unconscious, too. He got hypnotized by Django.
And that's how it basically starts.
Because he's Luffy. Luffy's not the brightest bulb in the crayon box.
As the series goes on, you notice that he's not dumb, but just simple-minded.
Yeah.
In which
he's easily distracted, so he just saw something moving in front of him, so his eyes naturally followed it.
Luckily, though, Django...
He's like me on cake day.
Luckily, though, Django can't stop looking at his own equipment, so he falls asleep. Well, again, these are some episodes, some things that we just glossed over because...
Right now, they're not important.
Overall, the episodes just weren't good.
Well, also...
Why do I keep saying that? It's not that they're not good, it's that they're just boring.
It's that if we thought highly of them, we would have gone on and on and on, like we kind of did about Shanks in the last one.
Yeah.
Or Kobe. Kobe was also one that we dragged on about, but not because Kobe did add anything particularly
special. It's because
he
will be doing something cool.
Oh yeah, he'll be awesome.
I forget they give him his own mini arc as well.
Not meant to fight. Not like this. Not like this.
And so.
Thanks, Ash.
Although I will say that, like, overall, One Piece is has a bunch of high points and a bunch of low points.
It's the journey that matters.
And
hence why the story, like, because One Piece was only supposed to last 5 years, which everyone scoffs at now. There are certain things that
he wanted
Oda
to get through
planned.
the East Blue in 1 year. In 100 chapters of publication, he was going to go through the Grand Line in 100 chapters of publication, and then finish the series off through a chapter 300 and just end it there. If it would have ended there, it would have been the shortest of the quote big 3 that are currently running right now.
But Oda kept falling in love with his characters, which
he started adding more people to the crew. He didn't intentionally want to add like half of them.
Mm-hmm. That they just
No,
kind
actually,
of
yeah,
happened
half of them. Maybe
organically.
about 2 of them he added on a whim.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's like, no, this character's so cool, I just want to have him on the crew more.
Yeah, I
Like-
definitely think that. Well, one of the characters, it's one of the other girl characters. I don't think he knew he was gonna include her until like a couple chapters before.
Yeah, because it's like, oh,
Because it just
now
happens.
I need to include this person because,
Uh-huh.
not because of her backstory, because that gets told way later, but it's mostly because of how important she is to the crew being able to get
And to
the
the
One Piece.
overall world. Like, and we're not saying her name, because when we get to this character,
There is a clear, oh, I
her.
did not expect that character to show up on there. You know, it's like,
Uh-huh.
but I will say though that just because these episodes are bronze does again
Does not mean that you can skip them, though.
they
Because
are important.
this arc with Kuro is actually going to be very important to the rest of the series.
Maybe not to the rest of the series. Although I will say something
At
funny.
least the first
If I
3
remember
years of the
correctly,
series.
Kuro is the person that cut off Morgan's arm. If I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Which
we're gonna have an
get into that
explanation.
flashback, which is gonna be
Actually,
really
we kind of already gotten into it. He was at Shellstown. Like, he was at Shellstown supposedly being executed. And if you remember back in the Zoro flashback, Zoro was at Shellstown. So, we kind of have that bit of correlation. Everything in One Piece is connected. It's like the 6 degrees of separation.
Mhm.
Everyone in the One Piece world knows each other through someone, and the world's about to get even closer with the Straw Hat Pirates. Whether they want to or not.
And I don't know a good way to end this episode off, but just thanks for watching.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The next 5 episodes are going to be basically them trying to defend Syrup Town, I believe is the name of this city.
Yeah, it's Syrup Town.
Syrup Town, which is famous
Which,
for
if we're wrong, we're wrong.
which is famous for its large fruits.
Uh-huh. And it's sheep. And it's sheep.
Poor sheep, dude.
I was like, I made a joke in here that Django
I
was
forget,
passing Mary's Baggy sisters. There's just a flock of sheep nearby.
I forget like what actually happens to him fully, but I believe he still has bandages on. Like when we looked into him recently.
Oh yeah, poor guy. That guy cannot catch a break.
Yeah.
Like even when like the world is secretly like the guy can't catch a break.
Yeah. So
we're gonna end here. Unless you have something else to say.
I think that's it.
These were bronze. The last ones were the ones that we did are slightly above the other. I'm IJ.
I'm AG, and CB will be back.
This was
Next 2 weeks, I think.
This was Eating the Whale, and we hope that you guys come to enjoy One Piece as we are.
Mm-hmm.
The next ones will be better.